Single dad discovers pregnant girl in tears at gas station, her 5 million secret revealed. Jake wiped the grease off his hands, palms rough as sandpaper, and stepped out of his workshop with the setting sun casting long shadows across the empty streets of Oakendale. The late autumn breeze sent shivers across his skin, reminding him of the chill that had settled in his heart since the loss of his wife. Life had become a rugged journey, and the ultimate destination was still obscured by layers of grief and uncertainty. With a weary sigh, he decided to stop at the gas station for a momentary escape from reality. Yet as he approached, he saw her, a teenage girl curled up on the curb, trembling. Her swollen, red eyes drew him in, and he felt an undeniable urge to protect. "Hey there, you okay?" he asked. It was a simple question, yet the weight of it was heavy, laden with his own unprocessed pain. She looked up at him, her innocent face marred by sorrow. Before he knew it, Emma had unleashed her heartbreaking truth. She was pregnant, abandoned, grappling with a trust fund her late grandfather left her, a staggering 5 million locked away behind obstacles meant to filter the deserving from the undeserving. Jake's heart tightened. The swirling emotions shook him, caught between the burden of his own loss and the fierce obligation to help this girl. He flashed back to the dreams he had shelved, a garage of his own, a place where he could teach Lily the art of mechanics, of resilience. Now, the vibrant picture he once held was obscured by shadows of financial insecurity and lonely nights spent sifting through memories. How could he add this to the pile of worries, another young life to guide when he struggled daily to be a parent himself? Yet here she was, undeniably in need, and for a moment he questioned if reawakening his dreams meant exposing himself to new vulnerabilities. He took a deep breath, forcing clarity into the chaos. "Let's tackle it together," he said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "I'll help you through the trials." As he promised to guide her through challenges that would test her mettle, a strange determination ignited within, blurring the lines in his mind. He felt a kinship with Emma that he didn't expect. She was a symbol of hope where he saw only despair, a connection that pulled on the frayed strings of his heart. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Each step with Emma tested not just her resilience but his. The daily meetings morphed into complex puzzles that dug into their essence: self-worth, family loyalty, and fear. Yet looming overhead was the shadow of the local politician, slick and predatory, ready to exploit Emma's vulnerable state. Jake's muscles tensed at the thought of the impending confrontation. Would protecting Emma put Lily's safety in jeopardy? Every inch they moved forward felt like 2 steps backward as their lives intertwined, leaving Jake wrestling with feelings of dread and helplessness. Nights were the worst. Alone with his racing thoughts, his conscience threatened to tear him apart. Should he risk everything to defend Emma, or keep Lily safe and sheltered from a world that had already taken too much from him? Just as he considered making a move, a phone call changed everything. Distorted whispers hinted at secrets in Emma's past, dark shadows that could unravel everything they fought to build. Jake's heart thumped violently. Was it too late to save them both? In the turmoil of that moment, the choices ahead became a storm that could either drown them or lead them into the light. Jake's thoughts raced as he stared at his phone, the unfamiliar number blinking on the screen like a warning light. What shadows did Emma carry? Each pulse in his chest echoed his growing apprehension. The choice to protect her now loomed larger than anything he had faced since losing his wife. He took a deep breath, trying to navigate the tangled emotions clouding his mind. This wasn't just about Emma anymore, it was about Lily too. The next morning, he sat at the small kitchen table while the sunlight poured through the window, illuminating the scattered school papers and Lily's art projects. The stark contrast of messiness and order reflected the chaos swirling inside him. He tapped his fingers on the table, contemplating the implications of reaching out for help. It was one thing to navigate his own entangled feelings, it was another entirely to involve Lily in the narrative of a girl he barely knew. "Dad, can we fix the car today?" Lily's voice disrupted his spiral of worry. Her bright eyes sparkled with the innocence he fought so hard to preserve. For a moment, he smiled, a flicker of the future he dreamed of seizing hold of him. "Of course, sweet pea. How about we check the oil first?" As they worked together in the driveway, he watched her remove the oil cap with an intensity that made his heart swell. She was fearless, hands dirty, brow furrowed in concentration. In that instant, he realized that teaching her wasn't just about imparting skills. It was about embodying tenacity, resilience, and the unwavering spirit he desperately needed to instill in both their lives. A sudden thought struck him. He could teach Emma, just like he taught Lily, about determination, about defending oneself, about the basics, how to navigate a world filled with both wonder and peril. The idea took root and blossomed into a plan. It would not only reconnect him with his own dreams, but it could also fortify Emma against the treacherous path ahead. That afternoon, Jake returned to the gas station, where Emma first unspooled her heart. The anticipation of meeting her again spurred a mix of anxiety and excitement within him. They hadn't solved the trust fund conundrum, each day passed with the urgency of a clock ticking towards an inevitable confrontation with the politician salivating over Emma's vulnerability. When he spotted her on the curb, she looked less defeated, more determined. The puffy eyes had faded to a hint of resilience. "Jake!" she exclaimed, rushing to him with a fire in her eyes he hadn't seen before. "Hey, I've got an idea," he said, trying to match her newfound spirit. "Let's create a plan. You're going to need to stand strong for that money, and I want to help you prepare for everything you might encounter." Emma's nervous smile widened as hope flickered in her gaze. "What do you mean?" "I want to teach you how to fix cars," he replied. "We can learn together. Just like I do with Lily. It might not seem like it now, but being hands-on prepares you for everything and it builds your confidence." "Really? You think that could help?" Her voice was almost a whisper. Jake nodded, feeling more resolved than he had in days. As they brainstormed ideas, he began to identify hidden beliefs within Emma's struggles, the fears of inadequacy that had kept her curled up in that gas station. The conversation flowed easily, prompting Jake to reflect on his own hidden insecurities. As he taught her, he discovered he too was learning a revelation that unshackled a part of him longing to be free, but as curiosity transformed to grassroots determination, a disquieting reminder lingered: the phone call and the hidden darkness tied to Emma's trust fund. The ground of safety beneath them felt more like quicksand each passing moment. With a wilting sunlight painting shadows across his workshop, Jake glanced at Emma and caught a glimmer of fear fleeting across her face as they plotted their next steps. The thrill of their alliance simmered with the added tension of unspoken threats. Was it truly possible to rise above the troubles edging closer, as they turned towards the future? Unbeknownst dangers advanced on the horizon, and fear simmered. A confrontation awaited. Could they beat the shadows encroaching on their dreams, or would the weight of the past drag them back into despair? Jake felt the thrill of uncertainty lacing through him, igniting a fire that screamed for answers yet to be uncovered. The following day, Emma stood in front of the makeshift workbench in Jake's cluttered garage, a look of determination etched onto her face. The scent of motor oil and grease hung in the air, filling Jake with nostalgia, reminding him of his youth spent under the hoods of cars with his father. That history felt like a lifeline now, a thread connecting the past to the present. "Okay, Emma, first lesson, the basics," Jake said, laying out tools on the bench like pieces of a puzzle. His heart raced with the unfamiliar thrill of teaching someone the way his father had once taught him. Every engine has its purpose, just like every part has its role. If you understand that, you can fix anything. As they began to assess the beaten-up sedan he often used for practice, Jake noticed Emma's brow furrow in concentration. He highlighted various components: spark plugs, carburetors, and belts. Each explanation breathed life into the dormant memories of his own childhood, and for the first time, it occurred to him that this may help him restore not only Emma's faith in herself but also his own sense of purpose. Each task was a small victory, and with every tightened bolt, Emma transformed from shy girl into an eager apprentice. Jake marveled at how quickly she picked up on things. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity and youthful determination as she wielded tools with newfound confidence. In guiding her, he felt an unfamiliar sense of pride, illuminating dark corners of his own self-doubt. "See? You've got this," he encouraged as she successfully replaced a faulty spark plug, her face lighting up with pride. But just as quickly, he felt a shadow of doubt creep back in, reminding him of the magnitude of the challenge ahead. "Yeah, but what if I can't keep it up once I actually need to use these skills?" Emma asked almost timidly, the enthusiasm draining from her voice. Her self-doubt echoed Jake's own insecurities, like refrains of a familiar song. "Every challenge comes with uncertainty," Jake replied, forcing a confidence he didn't fully feel. "What matters is how you respond to it. Think of it like fixing a busted engine. You won't always get it right the first time, but it's how you learn and adapt that counts." He registered her contemplative silence, realizing they were not so different in that moment. The weight of Emma's trust fund loomed heavy. The harsh reality was that lessons learned might not fully shield them from the vultures surrounding her fortune. He needed to confront those realities while nurturing this fragile new bond. Jake decided to shift their focus. "Let us work on some problem-solving techniques next. It's not just about fixing cars, it's about finding solutions when life gets tough." As they sketched out potential scenarios on scraps of old newspapers, he felt a small flicker of hope ignite within him. And yet, a gnawing urgency thrummed just beneath the surface of his newfound optimism. With every answered question, a new worry surfaced. The politician's intentions haunted him, the risks tied to Emma's precarious situation sending a shiver down his spine. Could they both navigate this murky terrain without being dragged back into fear and despair? Jake glanced at Emma, whose adventurous spirit seemed to blossom each time they unraveled a mechanical mystery together. If he could harness this burgeoning strength, maybe she could outmaneuver those threats hovering at the periphery of their lives. But as the last rays of sunlight filtered through the grimy garage window, illuminating the chaos inside, Jake realized that time was running out. They had to act swiftly, but the path forward remained unclear. The door creaked open, breaking his focus, and a figure loomed in the entrance, an unexpected visitor who could complicate everything. With a chill creeping down his spine, Jake's heart raced. Was this a chance encounter or a harbinger of the darkness closing in? The pressure mounted around them, and with it, the urgency to confront not only their fears but the external threats they both faced. Jake's heart pounded as he cautiously regarded the figure silhouetted in the doorway. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the garage floor, but he couldn't shake the feeling that darkness was inching closer. With Emma standing just behind him, he weighed the sudden anxiety swelling in his chest against the protective instincts that spurred him into action. Who was this visitor, and what did they want? The figure stepped forward, illuminating a woman with sharp features and eyes that glinted with determination or perhaps malice. The tension in the air was palpable. "Jake Carter?" she asked, her voice smooth but laced with an edge. "Who's asking?" Jake replied, instinctively stepping in front of Emma, interposing himself between her and the potential threat. The woman's lips twisted into a faint smirk. "Just someone interested in Emma." "Interested in what?" Jake demanded, his chest tightening. "Her inheritance. You see, she doesn't have a choice about whether to learn these skills," the woman answered, gesturing at the tools on the bench. "And you, Jake, are part of a much bigger picture." Emma stiffened behind him, her eyes darting between Jake and the stranger. The ominous words stirred a potent mix of fury and fear within him. He felt a desperate need to shield her from whatever was unfolding. "Back off. If you're here to intimidate her, you need to leave," Jake asserted, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. "I'm not the enemy," the woman replied, raising her hands in mock surrender. "I'm just here to help." But her trust fund comes with its own perils, and if she's not prepared, she could lose everything. Jake's mind raced, conflicting thoughts clawing for his attention. Emma deserved to have a fighting chance, yet hearing this woman speak about her trust fund made him uneasy. The stakes were much higher than he anticipated. Emma had placed her trust in him, he wasn't about to let anyone take that away. Why would you care? He shot back, narrowing his eyes. What's in it for you? Let's just say I have an interest in ensuring she doesn't make the same mistakes I did. Losing everything isn't a lesson a young woman should learn the hard way, she responded, her intent echoing eerily with his own protective instincts. Jake's defenses began to crumble just slightly, her words carried a weight of truth he couldn't ignore. Emma needed guidance and savvy that extended beyond mechanical skill. A reality check hit him hard. He was teaching her to repair cars, but was he equipping her for the battles that lay beyond the garage? You can't just waltz in here and expect her to listen to you, Jake warned, his tone sharp. Trust doesn't come from fear tactics. What if I told you there's a powerful enemy lurking in the background, one who has already laid plans to seize Emma's fortune? She replied, her tone suddenly grave. Emma gasped softly, and Jake felt a flash of panic shoot through him. Was the world's pressure closing in on them already? The thought of someone exploiting Emma's vulnerability made his blood boil. Who? He pressed, anger igniting his voice. The politician you're so worried about, she said, and the air thickened. But there's more, and if you truly want to help her, you need to put your pride aside and listen. The clock is ticking. Jake's mind churned. The gravity of the situation crushed down on him, but he couldn't let fear dictate their course. Emma needed resilience, not just mechanics. Okay, he said, drawing a shaky breath. Tell us what we need to know. As the woman stepped fully inside the garage, the door creaking ominously behind her, Jake realized they were stepping into a larger game, one with more power plays and perilous stakes than they could have ever imagined. And in that moment, he resolved to be not just the mentor she needed but also a guardian against the darkness that threatened to engulf them both. Let's figure this out together, he said to Emma, meeting her eyes, instilling a sense of solidarity amid the chaos that had just begun. But before the woman could reveal her plans, Jake noticed a flash of uncertainty pass through her eyes. Was it remorse or simply confidence masking intent? The unsettling thought settled in his gut. The real battle was just beginning, and he needed to be sure of the motives around them. As they prepared for the looming confrontation, he could feel the weight of their decision stretching before them like a crossroad, one path leading to unexpected alliances, the other to imminent danger. What would they decide, and at what cost? The immediate answers felt impossibly out of reach, but the time for action would soon arrive. Jake's resolve shook as the woman settled into their tense dynamic, her presence unsettling yet charged with an unnerving emphasis on urgency. He could see Emma's uncertainty reflected in her wide eyes. She shifted behind him, unsure whether she should trust the stranger or cling to the fragment of safety Jake's figure provided. Listen, the woman began, her tone sharpening as if she could sense the need for brevity. Your lives are entwined with forces larger than you understand. Emma's trust fund isn't just financial security, it's a target. And those who want to seize it will stop at nothing. How do you know all this? Jake questioned, ready to dismiss her as just another opportunist. But something in the woman's demeanor sparked suspicion in the back of his mind. She carried an authenticity that felt hard to ignore, yet her motives remained obscured. My past is littered with mistakes regarding money and power, she confessed, her voice lowering in volume. I've seen what corruption looks like, the desperation it breeds. I've been where you are, trying to protect someone while feeling utterly powerless. Jake felt a twinge of affinity for her struggle, yet trust was a fragile thing. What do you know about Emma's situation, really? Until you walked through that door, she was safe. Now you're claiming that it's all in jeopardy. It is a risk, and I don't underestimate your instincts to protect her, the woman answered, determination creeping back into her voice. But the truth is, the very people who would undermine her, those politicos, are skilled at finding weaknesses. They sense vulnerability, and Emma's lack of preparation is a glaring opening. You need to get her ready, and I can show you how. Jake pondered her words, realizing he faced an uncomfortable truth. He was not just a mechanic, he was stepping into a role he never asked for as a protector, a teacher. Yet the urgency whispered through him like a budding ember, igniting something he hadn't fully acknowledged before, the essence of responsibility woven with absolute determination. I can teach her how to fix things under the hood, Jake responded, his heart racing as he assessed what this meant for both him and Emma. But I have no idea how to prepare her for whatever this world looks like. How do you propose we do that? Knowledge is power, she replied, her fierce gaze locking onto his. You can both learn how to navigate the treacherous waters of wealth and influence. We can work together to fortify Emma's defenses mentally and strategically. You already have the instincts, but you need more resources. The thought of vulnerability triggered a visceral response in him. Jake had always grappled with feelings of inadequacy, but this moment forced him to reconsider his own capacity for growth. I've devoted my life to just keeping my head above water, to stay in control of what I know, he admitted, feeling the weight of his past decisions pressing down on him. Then it's time to evolve, she countered, her confidence washing over him. You need to embrace not just the technical but the tactical. Start working with Emma in ways that shape her into a formidable partner. Use what you know to foster strength in her. The flicker of ambition ignited within Jake. He had always been a problem solver, a mentor, a constant in Emma's life. Now, it was pivotal he evolve into a strategist, one who would educate, empower, and shield her from the shadows lurking just out of sight. Okay, Jake said, resolutely meeting Emma's gaze to reassure her. Let us begin this new challenge. Together. As they all exchanged determined nods, the path before them began to solidify, an arduous journey filled with stakeholder games, their growth intricately bound to each other now, but before they could strategize, the door to the garage creaked again, and their attention shifted as an unexpected figure emerged from the shadows behind the stranger. A chill coursed through Jake. This was the very enemy they feared stepping closer. Looks like our world just got darker, and the clock is ticking even faster. Jake's heart raced as the silhouette materialized from the shadows, a figure cloaked in uncertainty yet radiating menace. His instincts screamed for him to shield Emma, to create a barrier against the impending threat. In that moment, the role of protector solidified within him, no longer merely a mechanic, but someone who needed to confront whatever lay ahead. Who are you? He demanded, his voice steadier than his mind. The new arrival's expression was unreadable, and Jake's anxiety morphed into a simmering determination. This was a defining moment, he couldn't afford to show any weakness. Just a friend, the figure replied, delivering the words with a casualness that dripped with insincerity. Jake's gut twisted. He understood the power games at play, and this individual was far too comfortable in a space that held both their futures in peril. Emma, stand behind me, he thought, searching her face for an answer to the mounting tension that hovered low. She caught his eye, her fear overtaken by a flicker of contemplation, as if the wheels of her mind were turning. He needed her to anchor herself. This was the moment to teach her about standing firm when the ground shook. Your little secret is out, the figure said, glancing at Emma, who flinched at the statement, an indicator of her vulnerability. You think you're safe, but everyone wants a piece of what's yours. Jake felt the protective growl rise from deep in his throat. What do you want? He asked again, every word wrapped in an urgency that both compelled and terrified him. The stakes escalated, and the notion that he could no longer remain in his comfort zone settled heavily on his shoulders. The truth is, power doesn't just come from money, it comes from information. You either play the game, or you become the pawn, the figure insinuated, a slow smile curling on his lips. In that moment, Jake understood the threat wasn't just about Emma's trust fund, it was a facade for a control dynamic he had yet to fully grasp. What game? Jake countered, his mind racing. He had always prided himself on being an ever-calm craftsman, but the turmoil of the unknown pushed his buttons harder than he could have anticipated. He needed to expose the layers of this manipulation, yet the rawness of the situation sent ripples of uncertainty through him. It's a world filled with alliances, betrayals, and the occasional sacrifice, the figure chuckled darkly. You think you can just teach her to fix cars and navigate dinner parties? A jolt of realization struck Jake. This was a blatant challenge, an unveiling of his insecurities. Could he really equip Emma for a fight against high-stakes deception? Was he even prepared to combat the shadowy dynamics of power? He cast a sidelong glance at Emma, who was clenching her fists, her resolve mounting. The determination in her gaze urged him forward, igniting his own silent assurance. It was time to build not only her defenses, but his too. They had to learn together. Don't underestimate what we're capable of, Jake replied, his voice gathering strength. You clearly don't know us at all. Each syllable became a stepping stone into unfamiliar territory, his heart beating insistently in tandem with every sudden realization. Then let us see what you've got, the figure retorted, drawing closer, closing the gap in the garage. The air felt electric, fraught with the intensity of their diverging paths, neither of which could crumble under pressure. Jake had to turn this challenge into an opportunity not only for Emma, but for himself. How could he leverage this moment to forge a solid foundation, one that could withstand the ticking clock of impending danger? Awareness of the stakes bore down on him, a moment filled with adrenaline and potential. Could they seize control of their narrative, or were they destined to cower beneath the weight of those who would undermine them? As he prepared for the unexpected confrontation, the pieces of strategy began to align in his mind. He musters not just a plan, but the essence of a partnership that equipped them both, the figure smirked, anticipation clear in his eyes. This is just the beginning. The game is about to escalate. And with that, the undeniable truth settled in Jake's mind. He had entered a world where knowledge was simply the tip of the iceberg. What lay beneath would test them both, unearthing hidden strengths they had yet to discover. Jake's pulse quickened as he grappled with the implications of the figure's words. The weight of the challenge hung heavy in the air, pressing down on him like a storm cloud ready to unleash a downpour. His instincts screamed for him to take action, to protect Emma and shield her from whatever machinations were at play. But beyond fear, a flicker of resolve ignited within him, a determination to not just defend but to unearth a power within himself that he had long ignored. The figure was inches away now, the shadows of the garage harsh against his features. Jake took a deep breath, centering his thoughts. He had spent years honing his craft as a mechanic, solving problems with precision, but this was a different beast altogether. This required strategy, insight into human behavior, and the courage to confront adversities he had never faced before. Let her go, Jake commanded, voice low but steady, channeling the essence of his newfound role. This wasn't just about protecting Emma, it was about confronting his own trepidations and realizing he had a stake in this game too. Oh, it's too late for that, my friend, the figure sneered, leaning in closer. You can pretend all you want, but the game you're stepping into demands more than bravado. It requires cunning and a willingness to take risks. With that, Jake faced a torrent of emotions. His hands tightened into fists, but he knew he had to think strategically. Was he merely reacting out of instinct, or could he use this moment to unearth something deeper within himself? He glanced at Emma, who slowly stepped forward, her expression shifting from fear to a steely resolve that mirrored his. Her presence solidified his purpose. They were partners now, thrust into the unknown together, their fates intertwined. The mere thought of her navigating this perilous world made adrenaline pulse through him. What do we need to do? Emma's voice cut through the tension, steady and clear, every inch the woman he wanted to help forge into a force, a skilled strategist in her own right. Jake turned to her, the weight of responsibility now igniting a fire buried deep within him. We need to learn the rules, gather allies. Things in this world don't shift without support. The words were heavier than they sounded, anchoring him further into an unfamiliar role. And how do we do that? Emma pressed, looking for direction. Jake felt something within him flicker, a long-forgotten spark of leadership that demanded expression. First, we study. Get to know this landscape, find out who's who and what they want. Information is our best weapon, he said, confidence starting to root itself in his tone. The figure chuckled, but there was an edge of uncertainty now. You'll need more than just book smarts. You'll face betrayal. You'll need to be unyielding. I don't intend to back down. I want to understand this world fully, Jake replied, a newfound certainty giving strength to his voice. Asserting this, he felt a strange relief wash over him. It wasn't merely about protecting Emma anymore, it was about embracing the challenge itself. Then bring it on, Jake added, his gaze ablaze with a defiance he had seldom expressed. They were standing on the threshold of something monumental, and he was ready to dive headfirst into the fray. Emerging from that confrontation, Jake threw himself into preparation. They began their investigation immediately, researching the labyrinthine connections of those interested in Emma's trust fund, diving into the minutiae of personal histories and potential alliances. Each late-night conversation strengthened their bond, turning fear into determination, but lurking beneath each discovery was the awareness of their own limitations. Was exploring this world a path worth treading? Trust was a facade, and as Jake sifted through layers of deception, he began to confront his own beliefs about loyalty and sacrifice. Hours turned into weeks. They grew closer both as allies and individuals. In this crucible, Jake found himself evolving beyond the protector, awakening a leader whose resolve was unwavering. Yet as they stood poised for their next move, the ground beneath them began to tremble again. A new revelation hinted at a pivotal confrontation on the horizon, a name spoken in hushed tones, a figure whose arrival could disrupt everything they had built so far. The time had come to face the shadows of this threatening world head-on, but Jake could only wonder, would their partnership thrive, or would the tides of power pull them under? Days turned into nights, and the walls of their modest apartment had witnessed more than just strategic discussions. They had absorbed the tension, the heartbeat of anxiety that now defined Jake's every waking moment. Jake pored over documents strewn across the table, the flickering light of the desk lamp illuminating words that could change everything. What began as a mere investigation into Emma's connections was evolving into a deep dive into the undercurrents of power that threatened to sweep them away. That he felt the relentless push of time, the pressure mounting like an engine revving just before takeoff. Their conversations had shifted. No longer were they merely about survival but rather about crafting a plan, an intricate dance through a world where knowledge lay hidden beneath layers of deception. I found something, Emma said one evening, her voice cutting through his thoughts as she handed him a file with a trembling hand. This might lead us to someone who knows how to navigate all this. Jake's pulse quickened as he thumbed through the pages, absorbing every detail. Strategy, he reminded himself, was not just about information but understanding the intricacies of relationships. Trust was paramount, yet he couldn't shake the gnawing doubt that hinted they were stepping into a game rigged with uncertainty. Are you sure we can trust this person? He asked, looking into Emma's eyes. They held more than fear, they were alight with determination. Emma hesitated, her brow furrowing. We'll never fully know until we take the leap. But if we don't, we risk getting left behind. In that moment, Jake recognized a deeper truth emerging from the chaos. The stakes weren't just about loyalty or survival, they were about embracing vulnerability and uncertainty. That realization felt foreign, yet liberating. They would have to gamble on more than just facts. They'd need to trust their instincts, their evolving partnership. As the days passed, Jake immersed himself in the framework of trust. He reached out to contacts from his past fellow mechanics who had connected with various factions throughout the city. Although they lived by different rules, he understood their way of navigating power struggles. Conversations turned from casual catch-ups to weighing options and assessing risks. That he discovered surprising allies among old acquaintances, who, despite their rough edges, held insights into the web of influence shadowing Emma's trust fund. Each connection served as an awakening, revealing hidden talents within himself, his negotiation skills, a knack for reading people's intentions. Yet, with every breakthrough came a counterbalance of moral dilemmas, flickering reminders of the fine line he walked between integrity and ambition. Through these interactions, Jake experienced a transformation he hadn't anticipated. He was growing into a leader, learning to balance tactical thinking with instinctual gut feelings. Emma became not just a partner but an equal. Her ideas were sharp, her resolve unwavering, challenging him to look deeper and question everything. One night, sitting under the intimate glow of a single lamp, they strategized their next steps. After we meet with this contact, we have to be ready for anything, Emma insisted. I want to know what kind of world we're really stepping into. Jake nodded, cracking his knuckles in steely determination. We'll expose their weaknesses before they can play their cards. We redefine the narrative. He knew the words held weight, they were a promise to each other. But beneath the surface, anxiety stirred as the tantalizing idea of confronting the enigmatic figure from the garage flickered to life. An unsettling thought slinked into his mind: what if their next step brought them face to face with the very person whose presence had set this dark saga in motion? A resolution rippled through him as he steeled his focus. This was no longer just about Emma, it was about mastering the tide that threatened to overwhelm them, transforming fear into a calculated force. But as they prepared for the confrontation, a new message illuminated Jake's phone, an appointment for a clandestine meeting, with a name attached that made his blood run cold. A reckoning was upon them, the challenge ahead would either fortify their bond or expose fractures yet to be seen. Was he truly prepared to face what lay ahead, or was he just brushing the surface of the storm gathering around them? As the clock ticked towards the appointed hour, tension coiled tightly around Jake's thoughts, mixing with a potent cocktail of determination and dread. He had stared at that name, feeling its weight like lead in his gut. It was a familiar name, one that had echoed through his memories, the name of the man from the garage, the shadowy figure who had unknowingly drawn him into this labyrinth of deceit. Jake understood the stakes more clearly now. Every connection he had forged in the chaotic past few weeks was a thread in a larger tapestry, one that could unravel completely if he miscalculated. Trust was a delicate balancing act, one he had to navigate with care. Emma's ambition had ignited something in him. He sought not only to protect her but also to chase down the truth shrouded in lies. While waiting for the meeting, he practiced a mental script, replaying possible scenarios as he paced the crammed apartment. Each step reverberated with the gravity of their impending confrontation. What would he say? How could he keep his temper in check if the conversation veered into dangerous territory? Out of the corner of his eye, he caught Emma watching him. She wrapped her arms around herself, her gaze vacant, yet filled with fierce resolve. It dawned on him, she was on the precipice of a monumental shift, a personal evolution that mirrored his own. They had harnessed the chaos, molding it into something tangible. "Hey," he said, breaking the silence that had enveloped them. "Are you ready?" Emma straightened, her pulse visible in her throat. "Are we ever really ready?" She returned his gaze, and in that moment, Jake understood they were walking into a storm together, armed with each other's truth. As they headed out to the meeting location, Jake felt an unfamiliar sense of urgency coursing through him. He had spent so many years operating out of necessity, simply fixing things as they broke. Now, he was actively engaging in a dance of strategy, a mental chess game with invisible pieces that could tip either way. They arrived at the dimly lit cafe, an unassuming facade that belied the tension waiting inside. Jake scanned the room, noting every body movement, every glare. Trusting his instincts, he led Emma to a secluded booth in the back, providing a veneer of privacy amidst the crowd. As they settled in, a shadow fell across the table. Jake looked up to find the enigmatic figure standing before them, a man he barely recognized yet felt a visceral familiarity with. His presence was charged, and Jake immediately felt the intricacies of morality and ambition clash within him. "Jake," the man said, his voice smooth yet laced with an edge. "We didn't think you'd take the bait." "Bait?" Jake echoed, grappling for control of the conversation, wary of the game being played behind the man's calculating smile. "What you're searching for, it's not as straightforward as you think." The man leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. "You're not just fishing for answers, you're swimming with sharks. I hope you're ready to dive." Jake felt a rush of adrenaline, mingling with the tightening coil of anxiety within. He glanced at Emma, who looked ready to pierce through layers of deception with her unyielding spirit. They were venturing deeper than either had prepared for, but there was no turning back now. Casting doubt aside, Jake decided to confront the shadows of this world, unraveling the complexities along the way. Yet, as the conversation unfolded with the man, the gravity of his past and the uncertainties of their future loomed large. Would they secure the answers they sought, or was this just another step into a darker abyss? Jake took a deep breath, ready to face his fears and misunderstandings. The shifting balance of power could very well hinge on this encounter. And as the man began to speak, Jake realized the truth was more entangled than he had ever imagined. That chill of realization swept over him. This meeting would either define them or destroy everything they had built. What secrets were lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to tear them apart? Jake sat across from the man whose presence radiated an unsettling confidence, the silence around their table crackling like an electric current. The cafe, with its muted colors and distracted patrons, felt like a bubble distorted by the weight of their conversation. Emma's eyes flickered instinctively to Jake, gauging his reaction, silently highlighting their mutual trust forged over the past few weeks. "So, tell me," the man began, his tone deceptively casual, "what do you think you can accomplish before the storm hits?" Jake's heart raced. He had envisioned this confrontation, yet nothing could prepare him for the real moment. "This isn't just a game to us. Emma deserves more than what?" The man interrupted, leaning forward, his expression sharpening. "You're babysitting a kid with a lot of money and no understanding of how the world works. There are predators out there," he continued, his voice growing steely, "and the fact that you're here trying to shield her is naive." "Naive is thinking you can exploit someone without consequences," Jake shot back, feeling a surge of adrenaline at reclaiming that piece of power. The man chuckled, the sound low and menacing, yet edged with a hint of admiration. "You're fiercer than I expected. But won't shield you from the cold reality of what's happening around you?" Jake squared his shoulders, tasting the truth in the stranger's words as his own fears bubbled to the surface. They hadn't just been navigating car engines and skills, they were diving into a terrain that tested resolve, not just for Emma but for him as well. "I'm preparing her for the reality, equipping her with skills that transcend just mechanics," Jake countered, realizing that his voice was steadier now, infused with a newfound authority. "But we also need knowledge about the very world that threatens her. So why don't you enlighten us?" The man leaned back, taking a moment, assessing them, sensing their determination. "You want knowledge? Fine. But understand the cost. Every piece of information requires a trade-off. And alliances? They're built on trust but easily broken. Nothing worth protecting comes without risks," Jake replied, bracing himself for the dance ahead. Each word became a step toward claiming stability over the chaos looming. It was a test of their strategies, shifting from fear to clarity. This battle of wills was not just a fight for Emma's future, it was about establishing Jake's confidence as a protector, as a mentor who learned not only to defend but to empower. Emma shifted, her presence a fierce reminder of what they stood to lose if they played things wrong. "So what's it going to be? Are you going to help us create a plan, or will you watch from the sidelines?" she asked, her voice resolute. For the first time, the man hesitated, caught off guard by her direct approach. It was a pivotal moment, Jake felt it keenly, it just might flip the tides. "You think you're ready?" he queried, skepticism highlighted in his glinting eyes. "I don't just think I'm ready," Emma countered, drawing a breath. "I know I am. And I can prove it." The moment hung heavily between them, Jake bracing himself for whatever direction this unexpected alliance might take. He prepared her not only to fix mechanical problems but to face the challenges of a world steeped in complexity and opportunism. The man let out a low chuckle once more, but this time it felt more predatory and intrigued. "All right then. If you really believe you can step up, I'll show you how to play this game, but the stakes are high, and we won't hold back." With that, the conversation unfolded, layers of strategy revealing paths that exposed vulnerabilities within the political game influencing Emma's trust fund. As they absorbed every insight, Jake felt a transformation occurring not only within Emma but emerging within himself. He was taking ownership of his role as a guide and protector, cultivating a collaborative spirit born of shared purpose. With every detail discovered, his resolve crystallized. The darkness closing in no longer felt insurmountable. They were now players in a game of power, but more importantly, they were partners where his confidence in Emma flowed into her burgeoning strength and rising tenacity. days passed and turned into rigorous weeks filled with preparation, study, and cunning. The cafe meetings morphed into war rooms, revealing the complexities of their surroundings. Jake saw Emma evolving, her decisions sharper, her ambition unwavering. They were not just equipped with mechanical skills but armed with invaluable insight sharp enough to carve their own path in untraversed territory. How ironic, Jake thought, that a journey born from his morning had blossomed into a fresh purpose, sharpened by Emma's indomitable spirit. The chasm of loss he once endured now served as wind beneath their wings, the catalyst for change. Their last meeting with the enigmatic man loomed closer, and the stakes had never been higher. As Jake turned to Emma, a surge of pride welled within him. She stood not just as a ward but as a fellow warrior. They were prepared to confront this brewing storm together, equipped not only with tools but hardened by shared resolve and knowledge. In the hours leading to that fateful encounter, Jake felt a calmness settle over him. With Emma by his side, he had regained a sense of identity beyond the shadows of loss. "Whenever you're ready, we face this challenge together," he affirmed, smoothing its weight of significance. As she nodded, the fire in her eyes melted any remnants of doubt. They were a force to be reckoned with, and nothing could overshadow their determination to forge a brighter future. "Let us do this," Emma replied, a mix of steel and vulnerability threading her voice, sealing a pact that promises to reshape their destinies, one choice at a time. The clock was ticking, but they were ready. They had become more than merely survivors. They were two individuals firmly planted in their growth, embrace. In that pivotal moment awaiting them, they would demonstrate that resolve and courage could shatter the darkness. Now was the time to act. You need to subscribe now to stay updated on their incredible journey. Leave a like now to support the journey and fuel an algorithm that rewards authentic stories of growth. Comment below with your reactions. What do you think will happen next? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this emotional conclusion.